This is the Wrestling Old Head. You have entered the portal of pro wrestling.
What the world is watching.
What's up, you guys? So if you saw the title of this video, I'm sure you're puzzled by the question that I'm posing. Is Logan Paul the greatest heel in professional wrestling today? Not of all time, but today. And the short answer to that is yes. Now, before you get all crazy in the comments, I want to expound on what I'm saying. Let me clarify what I mean. Now, I grew up a wrestling fan in the late 80s, early 90s, up till current point. And to me, a heel is someone that is universally hated. Of course, they may do some things that get a laugh out of the crowd. They may do some things that give the audience a chance to give them a standing ovation, a nice applause or whatnot. But for the most part, the crowd hates them. Either they love to hate them, or they just genuinely despise them and want them out of the ring and away from their presence, whether it be on television or live in the building. There have been a number of different types of sections and categories of heels throughout the year. Even as far as X-Pac, for instance, who even had his own version of heat named after him, X-Pac Heat, where people hated him so much that they didn't want to watch him wrestle. They didn't want to watch him come out. They wanted him to go away. And The Miz had, at certain points in his career, X-Pac Heat as well. But I just want to go over some of the best heels in professional wrestling over the years. Now, it wouldn't be my Mount Rushmore of heels. These are just examples of great heels. One of the top ones is Rick Rude. Rick Rude used to come out with tights with the opponent's wife drawn on to his tights, sometimes on the back end, all right? He would cut promos and call out the crowd. Every dude in the crowd, he would say, "You're fat, you're ugly, you're a New York City sweat hog." He called out all the women. He was a ladies' man, and the crowd hated him for it. He usually would have Bobby Heenan alongside him, who is another great example of a heel that the crowd hated. And there were very few times, if any, where Rick Rude was actually cheered. There was a run in WCW in the early 90s, about 92, 93, where Rick Rude tried out as a good guy. It didn't last long. There's another instance when Rick Rude showed up in ECW under a mask and confronted Shane Douglas. Another example of a great heel was Shane Douglas. Now, of course, he used a lot of curse words. He said fuck a lot. He was the franchise of ECW. Many people would claim over the years that Triple H, as he was becoming the game, took a lot from that Shane Douglas franchise character that was in prominence in about 1997, 1998. So there was a lot of influence that Shane Douglas carried throughout his years, or that Triple H rather carried from Shane Douglas throughout the years. So Rick Rude, great example of a heel that very few times he actually got cheered. And the reason why I bring up Rick Rude and using him as an example to talk about Logan Paul is because the crowds nowadays, they have been conditioned and programmed to like the cool. Anything that is cool, they're going to respond to. Now it's even the theme music. If the theme music is a sing-along theme song, they're going to sing along to it. That's just what they've been conditioned and programmed to do. Good, a case in point, Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, the top heel on the Raw brand, their world heavyweight champion. When he comes out to the same music that he came out in his good guy days, and the crowd still sings along no matter what. Now, Becky Lynch did something good. Becky Lynch changed her music. So she comes out to an entirely different theme song, and the crowd responds accordingly. She is now a top heel, but she does moments to this day where the crowd will applaud. A good example of that, was when she called out Nikki Bella on the promo that they had a few weeks ago on Raw. The crowd reacted like it was Def Comedy Jam, and they went crazy and applauded Becky for what she did. And there was also other instances where they've chanted for Becky, depending on where they're at, right? Now you got guys. Now, a lot of people are probably thinking, well, MJF. MJF is a great example of one of the top heels in professional wrestling, and I would tend to agree with you. However, the AEW audience is not going to cheer him 100%. There have been times where MJF has come out and he's cut promos on the crowd and they applaud. They give him the reaction of a cool, good guy. Maybe it's because of Steve Austin, right? You got guys like The Rock. Maybe it's because of their persona and the way that they've acted over the years. Even though they've become good guys, they haven't really switched and become super good guys. They're basically their heel self, but they're doing it in a way that garners more reaction from the crowd. So this could have been one of those things that over time fans just connected to, where if you act a certain way, it doesn't matter if you're a douche or an asshole or whatever, they're still going to cheer for you. But when you have Logan Paul is universally hated. And it's not because he's not good in the ring. It's not because he can't cut a promo. Because all of those things he's really good at. It's just because they don't like him. And usually, if you ask around on the social media or even out in some of the arenas, the response to why they don't like Logan Paul is usually because of the way that he handles himself. It's usually because of his politics. It's usually because of what he was doing when he was a content creator all those years ago and some of the controversial things that he has done. The point being, the fans don't want to cheer him. They're not looking forward to giving him a roaring standing ovation. And Logan Paul plays into that like Jerry Lawler. He is got the crowd in the palm of his hands when he's in the ring and when he's on the mic. And Logan Paul does some incredible things in the ring for a celebrity turned professional wrestler. And maybe some would use that term celebrity loosely. But the point is, the only heel in the WWE currently that gets cheered or that gets booed with little to no cheers, probably 5% of the people in the crowd will actually cheer, is Logan Paul. And that makes him one of the greatest heels in professional wrestling today because he holds the honor of the traditional heel. He carries the torch for the traditional heel. Now, of course, there are other examples in the WWE right now. The New Day, great example. They're basically booed all the time. Grayson Waller, they've tied him to the New Day. They're basically booed all the time, right? Most fans will boo the New Day and Grayson Waller. They're not prominently displayed enough to be considered top heels. So you can't consider them top heels. Charlotte Flair, she was on the fast track. Fans universally hated Charlotte Flair. She was going to get Charlotte Flair heat. But she tied herself to Alexa Bliss, and there was an instant turnaround. She is starting to get more warm receptions from the crowd. There are other examples that I have grown up with as far as heels. Sergeant Slaughter is a good one. If you ever thought Dominic Mysterio had nuclear heat, when he became an Iraqi sympathizer, Sergeant Slaughter, take Dominic Mysterio and multiply that by 1,000. Sergeant Slaughter's heel run in 1991, a lot of heels being mentioned were cheered quite a bit today. But no one cheered Iraqi sympathizer, American traitor Sergeant Slaughter when they were in Desert Storm. Slaughter had to wear a bulletproof vest to the ring, okay? This is how bad they booed him. Now, Dominic Mysterio, now that I've mentioned him, is another good example. Far from a top heel, but at least top 3 heel in the business. But what happened when he went to Mexico? The crowd erupts. Totally different area, totally different region. I understand that. But the crowd, they used to boo over him talking. It became one of those things that they did because it was the thing to do, not because they genuinely hate Dominic Mysterio. I have all the confidence in the world to believe that if Dominic Mysterio had a quick turnaround and became a good guy the crowd would erupt. He would get over as a face. I just can't see a world where, and I mean this, all over the United States, all over Japan, okay, and even all over Europe, that if they pushed Logan Paul as a good guy, even if they did it right, that he would get cheered because they don't want to like him. Dominic Mysterio, you can tell. There are instances where they want to like him. And what's not to like? The guy likes video games. He likes chicken tendies. He's got an array, a roster of women that he has worked with in more ways than one, whether it's a shoot brother or not. You know what I mean? So they want to cheer Dominic Mysterio. I don't get any indication at all that they want to cheer Logan Paul. So the archetype for a bad guy, the way that I see it, the way that I grew up, fits Logan Paul to a T. Another great example, the Dudleys in ECW. When they would cut promos in the ring, they almost caused riots. Jerry Lawler, as aforementioned, when he was in ECW, his heel run in USWA. Rowdy Piper. Now, Roddy Piper became one of the most over guys in professional wrestling. But when he first started out, he almost caused riots. They hated Roddy Piper. This was a heel of heels. Jake Roberts, another great example of a heel's heel. He did things that made you despise him. Shawn Michaels, WWF late 90s Shawn Michaels, even early 90s Shawn Michaels. Early 90s Shawn Michaels, when he would come out with the Sherry Martel moaning over the music, and he would come out with the flashy outfits and everything like that. The crowd wanted to hate Shawn Michaels because he was arrogant and he was cocky, very similar to something that we see with Logan Paul. And in the late 90s, when he had D-Generation X, of course, he did cool shit. But when DX first started, they hated Shawn Michaels, especially when he went to Canada. Post Survivor Series 1997, pre Survivor Series 1997. Ric Flair, he had to call an audible and lose a match once because the crowd was going to riot if he didn't drop the title to the hometown guy. Ric Flair had a run where he was one of the most hated guys. This is what they did in order to ensure that they were hated and that the good guy got all of the praise, that the crowd rallied behind the good guy, hoping that he would beat the heel. This is what I'm talking about. Logan Paul is one of those guys, you put him in the ring with a face that you want to get over, a good guy that you want to get over. The crowd is going to go crazy for the good guy because they want to see Logan Paul get his comeuppance. Shane Douglas, the aforementioned Shane Douglas, when he was in ECW, there was an incident with a halo. Pitbull number 1 had a surgically implanted halo screwed into his head. Shane Douglas grabbed that halo and shook him violently. And there were people that jumped the guardrail because they wanted to kill Shane Douglas. That's a bad guy. That's the bad guy that I know. JBL, during his world title run in the WWE, universally hated. Everybody wanted to see JBL lose. They were infuriated. Gorgeous George came up. Everybody wanted to see him get beat. It was a different time back then. I don't want to expound too much. But do yourself a favor. Google Gorgeous George. That guy was one of the top heels for a long time. And I don't mean Gorgeous George from the WCW with Randy Savage. If you Google that Gorgeous George, you're going to get an entirely different video. Jeff Jarrett, his WCW, his NWA TNA run, he had massive heat. Nobody wanted to see Jeff Jarrett win, and they felt like he was being shoved down our throats. Jim Cornette, another great example. Iron Sheik. Ted DiBiase, when he did this bit where he kicked a basketball away from a kid that was dribbling, the WWF had to hustle Ted DiBiase out of the building because they were afraid of a riot. Everyone hated that man. Everybody has a price for the $1 Million Man. And of course, I can go on and on and on. One of the most clearest cut examples of a real bad guy was Roman Reigns when he was a face. When they were trying to cheer Roman Reigns, they wanted everybody to cheer him. The crowd crapped all over him. So you take all of those heels that I just mentioned, it exudes what we see with the higher exalted Logan Paul. So yes, in my opinion, he is the greatest heel in professional wrestling today. At least that's at the top of the card. If you agree, let me know in the comments. If you disagree, let me know in the comments. Thumbs up on the way out, you guys. Just wanted to throw that out there, let you know what's going on. I got a couple of prediction videos that are coming up for AEW All Out and the WWE's WrestlePalooza, so make sure you stick around for that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, checking it out. Thumbs up, and go ahead and subscribe because you never know when I'm going to be dropping some hotness out of the portal of pro wrestling. This is the Wrestling Old Head letting you guys know to stay tuned for more.